So what's going on, guys? My name's Ash and welcome back to a brand new video on the channel today. I hope you're all having a fantastic day so far. Now in today's video we're going to be looking at why I believe FIFA 21 was a failure of a game. Now it's not meant to be some overwhelmingly negative video, it's just my honest opinion on why I don't think FIFA 21 was successful as a game, and I'm going to go into depth in that in this video. But I do ask, just before we get into the video, I would appreciate it if you guys could subscribe to the channel if you are new. Also drop a like on the video and turn on notifications so you're notified when a video is posted, because I do have a lot of videos coming over the next few weeks with FIFA 22 just around the corner. But with all that aside, guys, sit back, grab a drink and enjoy the video. So the first reason I feel like this game was a failure was because I feel like it was just completely recycled from FIFA 20. Now I know people say that every year, but this year I really mean it was completely recycled, and I suppose they do have some justification with the pandemic and everything going on, but I really cannot think of anything that was added that was revolutionary or really changed the game in any way. Like, yes, we got some new stadium customization things. Yeah, you can make your goal net green, but like, what was actually added to this game to make it any different from FIFA 20? Like, if you look at the game modes, even outside of Ultimate Team, like career mode, Volta, Pro Clubs, they didn't really change. Nothing was really added there. Nothing that was worth you paying £80 for anyway. But if you look within Ultimate Team as well, Division Rivals stayed exactly the same. Weekend League stayed exactly the same. Draft stayed exactly the same. And yes, they added co-op in Ultimate Team for some sort of modes, but let me tell you something for free. That is not worth £80. Like, it really isn't. That is something that they could have implemented in any update they want. That should not be your selling point for a video game, because if it is, your game is in trouble from day one. And even with the addition to co-op, I don't feel like we got what we wanted with it. Yes, you can play some co-op rivals games. Yeah, you can play some friendlies, but can you invite two people to a co-op game, like two friends against two friends? No, you can't. Can you play draft together and split rewards? Like, I don't know, if you both pay 15k and you both get the packs or whatever? No, you can't. Can you really do anything that fun? Not really, no. They also missed an absolute goldmine as well, because could you imagine if they added co-op weekend league, the arguments that would cause between friends? It goes against my point, but that alone would make me buy the game. That would be hilarious. So yeah, co-op was really the only thing that was added to the game, and if I do say so myself, I think it was quite underwhelming, and you know, there wasn't really anything outside of that other than some customization features, which, let's be real, we don't really care about that much as a whole, because those are things that I think are just nice. It's nice to have there, but I don't think I want to buy a game for those things specifically. Like, if they come on the side, sure, why not? It doesn't really bother me. You know, it'd be nice to change some things around the stadium. But if you're telling me I'm buying a game for £80 to change my post colours, like, I really don't care. Let's put this in food terms real quick. Let's say you go to an Indian, right? You wouldn't just sit there and order a poppadom for your meal. You wouldn't go all that way to just have a poppadom. But if they said you can have it on the side as well as a meal, you would take that. Sorry, I really don't know where that came from. So yeah, right off the bat, there wasn't really anything added, and that was a big downer for me. So we've just talked about how there wasn't really any groundbreaking features added to FIFA 21, and right off the bat it felt a bit stale in terms of, you know, what there is to do. So if there was anything that could save this title and make you want to buy it, it would be if the gameplay is good, right? And unfortunately this is something I think that they have massively missed the mark with this year. I'm going to go ahead and split this into parts because there's a lot to talk about, but I'm going to go and explain each aspect of gameplay and why I don't like it. And yeah, let's get into it. So my first problem is the inconsistencies when it comes to shooting. The first thing that comes to mind when I'm thinking about this is when you're one-on-one with the goalkeeper and you've still got it in the back of your mind that you're probably going to miss the chance, when in reality 90% of the time you should be scoring that, especially with a player with high finishing stats. And I'm not necessarily talking about the times where you're being pressured by defenders or anything. I'm talking about when you're clean through on goal and your player will either smash it at the goalkeeper or hit it wide. Now, I get that in football players will miss these chances sometimes, but in FIFA, a game where it is very difficult to break down AI defenses and things like that, which we will talk about later, those chances have got to go. Like, you've broken down a very overpowered defence, you're clean through on goal, and yet your player still cannot convert the chance, even with the ridiculously high finishing stats. And people often say do a skill move before you shoot, but it's like, why should you have to do that? If there's not a player in front of you, you're not trying to take on a player, why should you have to do a ball roll to shoot? It makes absolutely no sense. And why should that change how good your shot is? Like, I get doing a skill move can be useful to either take it round the goalkeeper or beat players, but I'm talking about the instances where you're not even near the goalkeeper as such, you're not near a defender, and you have to do a ball roll because you feel like you'll miss if you don't. Like, I don't understand it really, and like, every time I do a ball roll, my shot seems to be 10 times better, but it's like, I shouldn't have to do that. It should be a clean-cut chance where you can just hit the ball in the goal. And this links in with my next point about shooting, and that is the angles that you have to create to shoot. And sometimes they don't really, you know, make much sense, and it just seems a bit broken. Like, you seem to have a better chance of scoring from about 20 yards out when you cut in than if you were head on with the goalkeeper. Like, I don't really understand how that's a thing. If you're clean through on goal and you're one-on-one with the keeper, you should have a much better chance of scoring, regardless of if you're on an angle or not, than if you just cut in from 20 yards and do a finesse shot. Do you get what I'm saying? I suppose what I'm trying to say in short is the chances that should be easier seem to be harder than the ones that should be harder and are easier. Wow, I can't believe I managed to get through that. Another thing that really gets to me about shooting is the whole near post thing. It's bothered me for a couple of years now, and it's the amount of times goalkeepers get beaten at their near post when they really shouldn't. Like, for example, if you have a right-footed player and he's on the right side of the box, and, you know, usually a player would shoot across goal in any real situation. In FIFA, you're much better off just hitting that near post, and the keeper gets beaten in a situation where, you know, if you did that in a game, you'd probably be taken off. What I'm saying is you have a better chance of scoring near post than you do far post, when in reality it should be much easier to go far post and much more successful. But it just doesn't seem to be the case in FIFA, and it really bugs me. The last thing I'm going to say about shooting, because I don't want to spend all day on it, is I think heading accuracy was slightly off. Like, I get that people didn't want headers to be overpowered, and I didn't either, but I feel like they're very poor, and crossing is not an option at all, because it seems like when you cross the ball and head it, even when there's no pressure on the player, they seem to do this thing where they'll either blast it over the bar or they'll scuff it to the side. I don't know. I don't really agree with how they've changed the headers. I agree that they should have been nerfed, but not to that extent where you can't really score a chance with them. The next thing I wanted to talk about is passing, and this is something that bothers me because it just doesn't really make that much sense to me, and I'm talking about the difference between long passing and short passing. So let's talk about the short passing. If you have your right back and, you know, you've just turned back and you want to pass to your centre back, for some reason that pass is very inconsistent, something that should be so basic, something that every professional footballer should be able to do every single time. It doesn't work. Like, your player will often hit it to the side of them, they'll hit it too powerful, they'll hit it so slow that it gets intercepted. Basically, my point is, something that is so basic and simple for a professional footballer isn't in this game. Whereas if you compare it to the long passing, there is a massive contrast. I have no idea why, but long passing just seems to be way more accurate in this game. We're talking about the through balls from your centre-back all the way through to your striker, or the balls from your right-back all the way through to your left winger. Passes, in, like, if they were performed in a real match, they'd be up for passes of the season. Like, genuinely, these seem to be performed perfectly every single time someone, you know, tries to do one. So the short passes that should be very basic and consistent aren't, and the passes that should be very risky and happen, you know, once every game or two, they happen all the time. I don't know, I don't have much to say about it. I'm sure you guys get where I'm coming from. It just feels completely backwards from EA, and they've got it the wrong way round. I don't understand how a short pass can be more difficult and harder to get right than a long pass that no one hits, like, on a regular basis. Now, moving on to the thing that has definitely killed this game the most for me, it has to be the defensive AI. Now, before I explain this, I just want to state that I'm not one of these people that think defensive AI shouldn't be in the game, because you can only control one player at a time in FIFA, and if you didn't have defensive AI, it just would not be a fun or competitive game or whatever, because it just wouldn't work. You cannot control every defender at once. There needs to be some sort of AI to help you out. But where do we draw the line? My idea for what defensive AI should be in FIFA is that the defenders as a whole keep their position without you controlling them. You shouldn't have to, you know, switch between every single defender just to make sure they're in line with each other. I feel like that should be a thing. You know, your defenders should just be able to keep their position normally. But I do not think players should make tackles for you. I'm talking like when somebody is controlling their CDM trying to cut off a passing lane and their centre back will literally jump forward and nick the ball. Like, it happens so often, and that really bugs me because, you know, it's not something that needs to be in the game. You know, tackling is something I feel like the player should always have to do themselves. Like, you know, your player wouldn't grab the ball and shoot for you, so they shouldn't go and tackle for you either. Like, a person is more than capable of quickly switching to a centre back if you're good enough, or any sort of player, and nicking the ball. Like, you should be able to do that. If you can't, like, you might need to get better at the game. Like, genuinely, that's not me taking a pop at people that struggle with defending, but how is it fun if, you know, you're just controlling one player and then your defender runs forward and does all the work for you when you haven't done anything? Like, I find it so backwards. It completely takes away the skill gap from the game, because defending is very difficult to master in FIFA, especially manually, and I feel like you just have no benefit from doing like manual defending in the game, because, you know, the AI just does it all for you, so there's not really any point. My main problem with defending, though, has to be the AI blocks. They are so overpowered and unrealistic that it genuinely boils my blood. Do I think AI blocks shouldn't be in the game at all? I think they should be in the game to a certain extent, but not to the extent we've got now, because it's ridiculous. Let me just say, if a ball is fired at your centre-back and you're not even controlling him, right? It's fired right at him. Yeah, sure, block it, why not? But your player should not be actively moving without your control, sticking their leg out, you know, above their shoulder or whatever, and blocking a certain goal when, you know, the person you're playing against literally hasn't done anything in order to block the shot. Like, I'm trying to get my point across, and it is difficult because on the one hand I'm saying we need AI blocks, and on the other hand I'm saying, you know, they shouldn't be in the game. What I'm trying to say is the ones where, you know, they're easy enough to block and they're right at the player, yeah, sure, there's nothing wrong with that. But when the player's actively moving and sticking their legs out and doing things that the player hasn't told them to do just to block the shot, I think that's ridiculous, because you don't really have a chance then if you're the attacking team. But yeah, the AI blocks are absolutely ridiculous and have killed this game for me, like, definitely. The next thing I wanted to talk about is the attacking AI in this game and how bad they are. Like, they just don't seem to move. Now, I'm not saying I want the attacking AI to literally cut through the opponent's defense and literally make it impossible to defend, but at the same time, they shouldn't be static like Arsenal and not moving at all. It makes the game so frustrating, like, because you can't really create any nice chances or goals because you just don't have any movement in the attack. Like, everything you do, you have to do it yourself, and that's not always a bad thing. But in a game like FIFA where it's around football, you do have players moving off the ball all the time. Like, how else are you meant to create a chance? And yeah, if you press L1, your player will occasionally move, but not in the right direction half the time. He'll just run straight and, you know, it won't even put himself in a good position. Like, the attacking AI is beyond awful, and like, if you compare it to the defensive AI in the game that we've just talked about, it is so underpowered compared to the defensive AI. So you basically have, you know, very overpowered computer defense and no attack to make up for it. So that's why you get very boring, slow games in FIFA 21, and it's just not something I like. The last thing I really have to say about gameplay, because this video is getting quite long, is I don't like the goalkeeping in FIFA 21. I haven't liked it for many years, to be fair. It feels like the chances that keepers should save, they never save, and the ones that they shouldn't save, they save. Like, one-on-one chances, like I said, they'll save very consistently. Yeah, a 20-yard finesse shot they won't be able to save, and like, they can even get chipped when they're basically on their line. I just find it ridiculous. I know they've been rewritten for FIFA 22, but like, it just bothers me so much. Like, how is a goalkeeper, like a 6'5" Donnarumma, getting chipped when he's basically on his goal line? Like, it doesn't make sense to me. Goalkeepers in this game are terrible. They're always getting beaten at their near post. I don't know, and it just feels very off to me. Like, the art of scoring goals, like, it just doesn't look natural or anything because of the way the goalkeepers are. It just really negates from the gameplay for me. But yeah, that's basically everything for the video, guys. If you have enjoyed it, I would appreciate it if you could drop it a thumbs up. It massively helps me. And also subscribe to the channel if you are new, so you never miss out on any videos like this one. And also turn on the notification bell so you're notified when a video is posted. And with all that aside, guys, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll see you soon for another video. Peace, guys.